My name is Jamie, and this is the vlog for February 23rd, 2022. I think I'm going to post like a couple vlogs today on a couple of different topics. I didn't want to just rattle on one really long one. Um, Sorry for the poor lighting, but it's really nice outside, so I'm just going with natural light today. So, I didn't really do a post-COVID rundown. So let's see, I'll tell you how it went, our experience. If you don't want to hear about that, skip this one. So, post-COVID recovery, everyone's recovered now. Everyone's doing well. Kiddo is doing well. Husband's doing well. He did eventually get it. He got it a week after like my symptoms like started. So my symptoms had wrapped up when he was getting sick. Grab my coffee over here. Um, so yeah. So that was a thing. Interestingly enough, remember he got it back in spring of 2020. He's been vaccinated last year, has not been boosted yet. He got it worse he had worse symptoms than the rest of us. That said, my symptoms by comparison to my husband's were mild. Um, even if it was mild, I would not recommend this. And I have a high tolerance for being uncomfortable. um, it was bad. The headache was something unreal. Um, didn't have a lot of coughing, had a bit of a runny nose, a bit of a sore throat in the beginning. Lost my taste, lost my smell, was tired, but the fatigue didn't leave me useless, all but like 2 days. There were 2 days where I was like just laying on the couch and it was hard to get up, but I still got up and walked and things. And I think the tips my friends gave me who have already been through this of keep moving, keep walking. Um, COVID wants to not put too fine a point on it, clot your blood and let it sit, which is one of the problems we ran into with treating it early on. Is we would give people go lay down, and then the fluid just builds up in your lungs, and the more you move, the more your fluids in your body move, and it's natural to be a being in movement. So that said, I walked when I could. I got up and did stuff when I had the little bit of energy to do stuff, and slept when I didn't. Yeah, I mean, I'm still a parent, so the husband still had to go to work, so there wasn't a whole lot of laying around that I was able to do. But I recovered just fine. Actually feel less anxious on the other side of it because I know we all got on the other side of it. So my daughter is 6. She is vaccinated and she has not had COVID before. She caught it. She was upset when she caught it because she was wearing her mask and doing all the right things. So it was a good lesson in like the world's not always black and white. Sometimes things happen. I'm so sorry. Let's get through this. So we did homeschool and all that jazz. She did lose her taste. She did lose her sense of smell for a while. My sense of smell is still diminished. My taste comes and goes, but is mostly there now. Um, let's see, what else? She had the cough. So I didn't really have that upper respiratory stuff, but she did, and it was scary. And I don't want to terrify anyone. She has what they call viral reactionary asthma. So she has inhalers, but really only gets an asthmatic attack when she's got an upper respiratory something. Even before COVID, she'd had pneumonia 3, 4 times before she was 4, something like that. So, close that window down. So we knew that we had inhalers, and it did get to a point where after day 2 of using her inhaler, like 4 to 6 times a day, I think the 4 or 5 times the first day. Second day it was 3 before noon. And I called her pediatrician. I'm like, should we go to the hospital? Like, at what point? 'Cause she was wheezing. She couldn't get through a sentence without wheezing, losing her breath. So the inhalers did help. They said if it continues, please go to the ER, get her an x-ray. She might be catching pneumonia. Waited out the rest of that day. Sorry about that super loud dog. So yeah, so we waited out the rest of that day. It remarkably started to turn around. and we didn't have to use the inhaler at all the rest of the day, and we didn't have to use it the next day. So she did not quite go into pneumonia, or if she did, it was so mild she was able to kick it on her own. Took her about 7-8 days to feel better. So now let's go to my husband. So he caught it the last of all of us. Kiddo, I was better. Kiddo was getting better, and he started to develop symptoms. He'd had a scratchy throat for like a week, but kept testing negative, even on a PCR test. So we figured it's spring, it's Washington, allergies, postnasal drip, a cold, other viruses do exist. Not so lucky. It probably was COVID. He just didn't have enough to transmit or to pick up on a test. So he tested positive on a home test, and his boat told him to stay home for 5 days. During those 5 days, the upper respiratory piece kicked in hard. He was pretty much in bed for 2 to 3 days, coughing a lot. He complained he felt like he had an elephant sitting on his chest. You've probably heard that before. I was encouraging him that if this continues, he needs to go uh, get a nebulizer treatment or something, go to the ER, get some chest x-rays, make sure he's not going into pneumonia. The next day, it got a little better, and then a little better, and a little better. He was not boosted, but he's vaccinated, and again, he's had COVID before. Um, he got it the worst out of all of us. I asked him if it was better or worse than the first time. He said it was worse, but it was shorter. So take that for what it is. Um, Luckily, apparently, now that we've had it, we are unlikely to transmit it or catch it again for at least the next 90 days. Good thing we have a vacation planned in April. Um, but we still plan on wearing our masks around crowded spaces. It's not worth getting it again. It's just not. So, yeah, that's where we stand. That was what our COVID recovery looked like. Kiddos back at school. Washington still has our mask mandate until the 21st. I've talked to my clients. Most of them want to continue wearing masks, pretty much straight across the board, which is interesting because when the mandate ends, it's not you can't wear a mask. It's if you want to, do it. If you don't, that's cool too. So they're starting to phase out masks outdoors at school, and it's very much, do you want to wear your mask? You can. You don't have to. And I love that they put no pressure on the kids. My kid decided to continue to wear her mask yesterday. Again, I think it's part of it's probably anxiety, and part of it's that she's seen this twice now. I mean, we were video chatting with my husband when he was sick. And each day you watched him get sicker and sicker and sicker the first time around. And as a parent with a deployed spouse, because he was deployed when he got sick, the challenge became, at what point, if any, do I end them doing video calls? Because if this is it, I may not want her last communication with her dad that she remembers him being miserable, violently ill, unable to breathe, that kind of thing. Or there's no easy answer to that, because if I cut it off and he passed away for some reason, because we didn't know that much about COVID at the time, then I stopped her from having that last time with her dad. I am very glad we never came to the point where we had to make that decision. Yeah. So, but having that linger in the back of my mind still kind of empties my soul. There's no answer that works for that. And I feel for everybody who had to make those kind of decisions. So that's our COVID recovery blog. We're all pretty much recovered at this point. Like I said, I can mostly still taste the cardiac stuff that really hit me hard the first couple of days seems to have subsided. The kiddo also, I didn't mention this, the kiddo also experienced some cardiac stuff when she was asymptomatic. So she wears a ring to help monitor her when she sleeps for her central sleep apnea. And it alarms if her heart rate goes above 120, which is like running for a kid, basically, or below think it's 59, which is pretty slow. So her resting heart rate somewhere between 70 and 60 when she's sleeping. Fairly normal, little on low end, fine. One night during COVID, the alarm would not stop going off. That means the whole night she was 120 or above almost the entire night, like she was running a marathon. She was not running a fever over 99 degrees. She was difficult to wake up. It was very scary. At one point, her heart rate spiked up to 150, and at one point, it got as low as 30 beats per minute. That's one beat every 2 seconds. That's frighteningly low. Didn't last, luckily. So you keep hearing that it doesn't affect kids. They're mostly asymptomatic. Most kids aren't wearing a sleep ring. I think it affects kids more than we understand. Just throwing that out there. So anyway, that's what I've got. I think that covers everything in our COVID rundown. Um, so I will probably post just a general like update thing later because I got more in my mind and I got a slow day. So you might hear from me a lot. Yesterday was freezing. It didn't get above the real feel of 25 in my neighborhood all day. Today is just as cold, but at least it's sunny. So today's going to be better.